This is a subject has been very valuable to me. It really helped me grow my businesses so much more rapidly. That strategic partnerships, joint ventures, affiliate relationships, there's different words that people use, really can be a valuable part of your business for faster growth. When Odell first joined me and I would talk about these subjects, Odell was really resistant at first because he heard the term partnership, and to him that had a bad connotation because he'd heard of so many partnerships failing. But I'm not talking about a legal partnership entity-wise, and he's since come to understand what a strategic partnership is. It's not being equals, but it's working together.
Right. Well, and my view on partners up until working with Bob was everybody in your organization wants to be your partner in profits. Nobody wants to be a partner in the cost. But Bob explained a new way and gave me a new sight, and that's what he's about to share with you now, is how to do strategic partnerships in a way that benefits both without giving up control of your organization.
First, some definitions. One definition is a strategic partnership is a formal alliance between two enterprises, usually formalized by one or more contracts, but not a legal partnership. Wikipedia says it's typically two companies that form a strategic partnership when each possesses one or more business assets that will help the other, but that each respective other does not wish to develop internally. And we'll explain this more. It may not be totally clear yet. Another definition from smallbusiness.com, strategic alliances are partnerships in which two or more companies work together to achieve objectives that are mutually beneficial. Companies may share resources, information, capabilities, and risks to achieve this. And finally, from businessdictionary.com, a strategic partner is a partner with which a long-term agreement reached for sharing of physical and or intellectual resources in achievement of defined common objectives. I had taken a course. This was a course by Jay Abraham on joint ventures, and it was a thick book, a thick course, and involved teleseminars and coaching and training, and it had changed my mindset in what working together in partnership was, and it created a valuable opportunity for me one time. I was right after studying this and beginning to understand what joint ventures involved, which was sharing the efforts, sharing the risk, but also sharing the profits. I got a call from someone, a referral from one of the manufacturers, and this is back to our audiology clinics. I was set up with the capability, and it took a lot of work and a lot of time to be able to accept third-party payments from particular insurance companies and particular organizations in the United States that would pay for hearing instruments, but they had so many hoops to jump through, so many requirements. It required hiring an extra audiologist, and it required hiring someone just for the paperwork, full-time, just to do the submissions. And it was so much work. At the time I wondered, is it really worthwhile for me to do all this work? I was a small business and it was a lot of expense to go to. Then I had read the book and taken the course on joint ventures, and I got a phone call from a manufacturer saying, well, there was another audiologist in another part of the state that was looking for someone that he could work with. So he called and we talked, and he developed a practice and had a lot of nursing homes, but he wasn't able to accept these third-party payments. And as we talked, my old mindset said, okay, well, I could do this for him. I've got the credentials. He could do the work. I could contract with him to do the work, and I could do the submissions, and I could do like Visa or MasterCard. I could charge him 3 or 4%, just a transaction fee. But because I just finished this course and because I had this new understanding of what a joint venture was, when I went to make my proposal to him, I thought, well, it won't hurt to try. And instead of saying, well, we could do that for a transaction fee, instead of doing that, I said, well, why don't we do this together as a joint venture? You provide the services in your part of the state, which was San Antonio, and I'll provide the credentialing, the submissions, I'll provide the staff to do the follow-up work and get everything submitted and paid for. And after the cost of goods, we'll just split it 50-50. And I was expecting a rejection. Instead, he said, well, I'll tell you what, why don't we do it 60-40, and I'll take the 60, you take the 40, and I'll pay for all of my expenses out of the 60, and you won't have to worry about travel expenses or car or equipment. And I said, fine, and we did that. And that year was one of my best years ever, and it went on to create a new business model for me that I was able to expand across the state, where I would contract out to people and to cities that didn't have these services available for them to do the work and me to provide some of the other services. And without the understanding of what a joint venture was, without the understanding of what a strategic partnership was, I wouldn't have had the boldness to make the offer I did. And so it turned out being one of the most valuable things I ever did.
And you heard us talk about doubling one of the other revenue streams in marketing. This is where we doubled the revenue stream in this piece of the company, in the retail side of the company, just by joining up with other people who needed the support we had, and we needed the reach that they had. And so even though in a normal sense you would consider them to be a competitor, in this sense we were in different areas, geographically, reaching different customers. And wouldn't it be great for your company name to show up in other places without you having to be there and you receiving a portion of the profits? And so together, both companies built, theirs and ours. And at one point in time, we had 25 of these joint ventures going on in different parts of the state. So Hearing Haven was showing up all over the state, even though at that time, Hearing Haven had 2 offices, one in 2 different cities. All right, and I know that you may not be geographically referenced to Texas, but put that into the thing of it takes 10 hours to drive across the state, whichever direction you go. It's a huge piece of geography with many major cities and a bunch of small towns, and all of a sudden, in a matter of a few months, we were able to create a statewide presence and began receiving revenue that doubled the size of the company in 1 year.
But the principle there is that we had something that we excelled in, that we had to offer, that this other person and these other people didn't have. They had something in their geographical area, a customer base and a reach that we didn't have, and we didn't want to go into the capital expense of opening offices all across the state. So we took what we specialized in and what we had built as infrastructure and systems. That was our part of the partnership, and their part of it was their geographical location and their customer base, and we joined together. There's many other examples, and we'll get into some of the other ways to have partnerships. There are times when you might have someone you consider a major competitor, and they can actually become your partner. One of those ways is there are people that address different niche markets. You might have a product that's a low price, entry-level product that's your focus, and you may have a competitor that's selling a high-quality product to a high-end market, to a different clientele. And your tendency may be to try to reach the whole market and try to reach his market as well as your market. But another approach might be to stay with your niche, your low-end entry product, and build a relationship with your competitor who's reaching a different market. Build a relationship with him where you have an agreement that when you run into someone that doesn't fit your criteria and they say, oh, well, I don't really like to buy inexpensive things. I only like to have the best. That you can say, well, I have one that I know that would be ideal for you. And you refer them to the other person. And when this other person who sells the high-end product runs into a customer that says, oh, you're way too high, I'm going to look for something less expensive, he can say, well, you know, I know just the person for you that has a product that's right in your price range. And he refers them to you. And it can either be just a referral relationship or it could be a formalized relationship where there's a fee or a percentage for each of the referrals you send back and forth. And I really like to build cooperative relationships like that. No pun intended to the co-ops here. I like to build cooperative relationships with people so that they no longer are competitors, but they're co-workers. And we each have our specialties and we focus on our target market and we help each other. Maybe we're in different parts of town, maybe we have different income levels we're addressing.
Right. And we employ all of the different models simultaneously that we are teaching. So in some cases, we're reaching out and providing administrative support and reach into other forms of revenue that they can't reach on their own, they're too small, or whatever the case may be. But we also have things where people refer things to us on a fee base. We also have things where we transact back and forth on a transaction basis. All right, so you can do more than one of these things at the same time. You just have to be clear about which one you're playing with at that moment. All right, so we do all of these things. And to move it over into marketing, in our marketing and publishing company, we transact on a cooperative basis with many different suppliers in specialty areas that we don't have in-house, or that it would exhaust our resources very quickly. And so we transact with them. And so if they have a client who needs some of our other services, they come into the group this way. If we have a client that needs their services, they go that way, and we both stay together so that both of us keep that client. And in the customer's eyes, we've given them a much greater value because we didn't just take care of the one thing. We found other related things that we were able to add on, which he's going to get into more in just a minute.
Here's something that's related to strategic partnerships. It's a little bit of a different strategy. So many people in a particular industry are focused on what their industry does. The funeral parlors only market like funeral parlors. In audiology, the hearing aid industry, so many people have such a narrow focus. If you can open your mindset to look at how other industries function, the techniques and the strategies that other industries use, you can sometimes come up with an innovative strategy that becomes really very valuable to you. For example, again, I keep going back to things that I know well. In the hearing aid industry, usually the marketing is done directly for this particular product, and it becomes a product. We were trying to think of ways to create a system that would help people afford hearing aids in the United States that wouldn't be financing, it wouldn't take interest charges, but it would make things affordable. And we looked at other industries, and one of the industries was the cell phone industry. iPhones, for example, are very expensive.
All right, and with that particular model, what we did was we copied what the cell phone industry was doing and put it on hearing aids, something that the industry we were operating in had never seen before. They had never seen that. It never had worked before. There's several other models that we flipped that we'll get into, but on this one, what it meant was that they could have all of their needs taken care of for the rest of their life with hearing aids for a small monthly payment and a one-time deposit. All right? Just like a cell phone, you renew every 2 years, every 4 years, whatever your plan is, and you have the opportunity to buy a replacement product of later technology for much less money, correct? Well, we did the same thing. We superimposed that into our model, and then we put it at a target that was younger. Because at that time, up until then, our market was 75 to 90 years old, because that's who was really shopping for hearing aids. But with the new model, we were able to back that up to 45. And we were able to change that to where we could take it into industrial areas because they have a lot of noise pollution. You know, if you're in an industrial area and you're not wearing protective ear things, you're going to have a hearing loss very rapidly. And once you have one, it progresses throughout the rest of your life and becomes worse, just like eyesight. Over time, your eyesight will worsen, especially if you're already wearing glasses. It becomes weaker faster. So we were able to widen a whole band of thing by taking another model and putting it into our model, and then also using that to partner with other people around the state who didn't have access to that model. So we were able to do several things at one time with one move.
Another thing for you to take a look at in looking at other industries is how do the other industries get referrals? How do they get word-of-mouth advertising? And if you can take some of their systems and apply them to yours.
Okay. Bob's having a little technical difficulty for a moment. What he's talking about is referrals. There are so many different ways that you can apply referrals to grow your business. All right. Here's a good example of a business model that that is extremely appropriate for young women. And that is if you're very good and you're at being fashion conscious and you know what's going on in the marketplace, then you can begin shopping yourself to executives and media people as being a personal shopper or a, what do you call this? How you look person. Right. But what you do in that process is you also begin to work on a referral system with other people who provide different things in the same arena, like makeup distributors and scarf distributors and purse distributors, and you start setting up affiliates so that every time you sell one of their products to one of your clients, you get a commission off of that product from them, and then likewise they can turn around and start referring people to you. So there's all kinds of referral systems, and then referrals from your own customers. All right, in America, it's very popular now to offer a reward to a client for the name of someone else that they know that could benefit your product because your trust and credibility just went through the roof, but there's a transaction that occurs there, and you can make money both ways. So it feeds your income, it builds your marketing base, it increases your customer base, and it's a strategic partnership all at one time.
This afternoon, Odell will be talking about team building and team engagement and synergy, and it's one of the great things about having a great team and having somebody else to work with is when you have technical difficulties like in getting a dry throat and coughing, you have somebody that can take over. And in your business, it's so common for one person to try to control and try to run the whole thing by themselves, or for those of you who are in a corporate environment, to only have your own department and everything's dependent on you. It's very valuable to create cooperation and a joint venture with someone else in your company that can fill in for you, that you can work with back and forth. Very helpful.
And one of the benefits of doing these partnerships across other lines is you leverage yourself and reduce your time and energy that you're personally devoting. Because how many people here know that starting up a business or running a business is very time and energy consuming, right? So why not leverage that with other fields? Say if you're home construction, why don't you add in or partner up with people who clean houses, with people who do landscaping, with people who maintain yards, with people who do home repairs, and broaden the range of services that you're giving and reduce the stress and improve your reputation all at the same time, and do a little trade. Or whatever service they provide, since you gave the referral, a piece of that comes to you.
So when someone calls you up and says, do you do this? Do you provide that? You don't just say, no, sorry, we don't provide that. You say, well, we have someone that can take care of that for you. So your answer becomes yes, because you have someone that you can refer to who is a partner of yours. Whether they provide you and recompense you financially for that, or whether they just become a referrer for you, it can work out to both of your benefits.
Right.
Sometimes you can give other businesses permission to use some of your materials, to use some of your personnel even. There are times where you may need the services of a great sales team. You may not have enough salespeople in your organization, And instead of having to hire people and get permanent employees, if you create a partnership with someone else where you say, you know, I really need someone to help out in the sales end of this, I have all the people I need to fulfill on the sale, you can create a partnership with another organization and not have to get tied into a lot more employees.
Yep. And next we're going to get into something that's very near and dear to Gilbert. I was talking to him a few minutes ago, is use of another's business's distribution system. Maybe you have a great product and maybe you've got the marketing lined out too, or you've partnered with someone to build it. But the issue you have is that you can't deliver fast enough, far enough to really grow effectively. And so you can link in with someone who has a great distribution system and would love something else to put in it. And you can partner up.
Working with other people can often give you credibility, especially if you're a small company just starting out. There are times where you don't have the credibility that you'd like to have. There's a story that I read, and I've read it in different versions. Some said it was Rockefeller, some said it was Carnegie. But in the story, in the early 1900s, this young entrepreneur that was starting a business approached this wealthy industrialist, again, at Carnegie or Rockefeller, and asked him if he would invest money in his company or if he'd loan him money to start this business. And it was a very wise person, this large entrepreneur, and what he told him was, well, I won't loan it to you myself, but take my arm and let's walk across the stock exchange, and we'll turn around and we'll come back, walk together, talking, and when you get back to the other side, the room will be full of people that would be willing to lend you money because they saw, oh, this guy is a friend of Rockefeller. He has connections. I'm willing to loan him money. And sometimes what we need are those sorts of connections, people that we can associate with, people that we create a partnership with, and even though we're maybe a small, new startup business, they see, oh, this person is connected with them. They're worth doing business with. Just the credibility of your associations can create a strong strategic partnership that's very valuable to you.
And we've used that several times in different parts of different businesses where we needed to gain credibility. Like in publishing, it is very difficult in America to establish yourself as a publisher and have any credibility in the marketplace because it's been dominated by really big organizations. So we went into a strategic partnership with one of the mid-tier publishers in the US, and as a result, we now have our own organization for putting out a particular genre of publications through this organization, and we're sharing back and forth. Authors that they won't represent, they send to us. Works that we want to publish, we send through them. And so we trade back and forth. So there's not really any money that changes hand other than the fees for the services that are provided. But we both received increased stature in the community because now they can offer a thing they couldn't offer before, and they can gain more business by being able to represent things that don't fit their model. And we gain the stature of their credibility in the marketplace. And they're a New York publisher and a Philadelphia publisher and an LA publisher. So they have a wide reach. So we got their credibility and they got extra business.
And that's one of the ways that you can solve the problem of lack of capital. It's so tempting early on in an early stage of the business to either borrow money or sell a large portion of your company to investors just to raise capital. And sometimes by having a strategic partner to expand your marketing or to expand your distribution, to provide things that you would otherwise have to have a lot of money for, you can avoid selling to investors, or you can avoid borrowing money because the other people's resources are taking care of what you would normally have to raise money for.
Right. And over time, you can develop the resources on your own. If, for example, the strategic partnership drains you a little further than you would like on your resources, well, you can begin putting your resources together and studying how that's done and putting on your own thing for later when you're bigger and you're stronger. So this is really critical when you're first starting out, but it's critical at any point. It's critical at any point in your business, but especially when you're starting out. These can make all the difference between your success and your failure.
How many of you know what SWOT analysis is? forms, a form of
I knew Venus would.
a form of doing strategic planning, which is the SWOT is an acronym that stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And when you're forming a business plan, that's usually part of the business plan. If you're going in to talk to a cooperative or a financer or a bank, you do a business plan, and part of the business plan is spelling out, these are the strengths of my company, these are the weaknesses of my company, these are the opportunities in front of me, and even these are the threats that could destroy us that we need to be careful for. What a lot of people don't do is they don't apply that same SWOT analysis to their competitors and other people in the field. And by doing and setting down and looking at a SWOT analysis of other people in your city, competitors and people that you're cooperating with alike, that can show up opportunities for strategic partnerships. Sun Tzu in The Art of War talks about knowing not only your own strengths and weaknesses, but knowing your enemy's strengths and weaknesses. And if, for example, you have done a thorough SWOT analysis and you know what your weaknesses are and you know what your strengths are, and if you find someone else who has the capability and the resources to take care of your weaknesses, and you have a strength that would help them out by understanding and analyzing their business and your own, it will show you opportunities that are there to make a connection, to build a relationship.
And what you'll find when you take it out to the marketplace is, because the automatic presumption as a business person is, this is mine, that's theirs, and they're not going to want me to play in their arena. But when you begin a conversation, like we were talking about in the last section, and are really delivering value to them, and as a result, you're receiving value from them, they open up in a hurry because they have done their homework too, and they know what they're missing. So you're bringing something they maybe can't afford to bring into their own structure at that time, and you can provide it. So when you're going into this, it's like, what do I have that I can provide, and who out there needs it? But it begins by assessing your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And that's one part we haven't focused on yet, but your threats are the things that will take you down in a hurry. Changes in the market, changes in whatever affects your industry, and you can offset those through strategic partnerships as well.
Another thing you can do is by using the endorsement and the reputation of another company or another group to help you. A good example of that is what we're doing here today. We have our M&A Resource headquarters is in Cagayan de Oro. Nobody in Cebu has ever heard of us. If we would have come here, put an ad in the paper, and said, come to this business training seminar, there would be very few people here today. But because of a relationship that we had with our Chamber of Commerce and the connection between that chamber and this chamber, we were able to set up a strategic partnership or relationship and allow the Cebu Chamber of Commerce to become a partner with us and market this. And because of their endorsement, because of relationships that had been developed, a lot of you are here for that very reason. You can do the same thing. You can find organizations that you can join, that you can cooperate with, that you can build relationships with, and on the strength of that relationship, as they get to know you, you can create strategic partnerships that will help you grow and advance because you're gaining credibility from their endorsements.
Right, and one of the secrets to having this become effective quickly for you is to change your conversation from what is, and I said this a while ago, but I'm going to say it again, you'll hear it over and over from me. It's one of the principles that I live by, is what can I give you before I ask for anything from you? All right, that's done from a place of service. That's what makes these things effective, is you are genuinely looking to help them improve. Yes, you're looking for you to improve too, but from their perspective, the most important thing is how are you going to help me? So your perspective should be the same.
Some people call it the law of reciprocity.
That's
you
it.
have to give first before you receive back.
Right.
You've heard the old story about the fire, and the person is saying, give me warmth, and the fire says, give me more wood, and then I'll give you more warmth. And so sometimes that's how we have to do in building strategic partnerships, is we have to provide service, and we have to provide what we can do first, and then we receive back help from that.